Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something absolutely essential for any independent artist making waves in hip hop, trap, or R&B right now.
Mm.
How do you actually find and book live performance gigs in 2025? This isn't just about putting music out there online.
No, it's really about getting on stage.
Yeah.
And, it's becoming increasingly vital. The digital landscape just constantly shifting.
Right.
That real-world connection you make on stage, it's more crucial than ever. We've been digging into this incredibly detailed guide on this very topic.
Yeah.
It's practically a roadmap for navigating the live music world, like right now.
That's exactly what we want to unpack for you. Our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the absolute most important insights, the practical tools, the strategic nuggets from this guide.
Yeah, it's stuff you can actually use.
Exactly. We want to give you a shortcut to being really well informed on how you can hit the stage and use live performances to fundamentally grow your music career starting today.
And the timing couldn't be better, really.
Yeah.
2025's live music scene feels like it's properly hit its stride,
Yeah.
post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Fans are definitely craving those in-person experiences, that energy you only get at a live show.
Oh, for sure.
And that creates this massive opportunity, specifically for independent artists in these genres, hip-hop, trap, R&B. This is where you don't just get another stream.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you turn a listener into a genuine, dedicated fan.
Okay, so let's dig into that core idea then. Why does performing live still matter so much in 2025? I mean, we talk constantly about streaming numbers, Spotify playlists, TikTok virality.
All the online metrics, yeah.
Right. Why isn't the stage just sort of a nice to have anymore?
Look, it's absolutely crucial. While all those digital platforms are, essential for discovery and reach,
Yeah.
live shows build a connection that algorithms just can't replicate. It's different.
Oh,
It's where your personality, your energy, your stage presence, and your music hit someone in person. It's visceral. The guide really hammers this point home. It describes the stage as the place where you convert, anonymous listeners into actual fans.
through the performance itself.
Through the sheer power of an electrifying performance, yeah.
Sure.
It's that direct experience.
And history totally backs this up, doesn't it? The guide reminds us of examples that feel almost legendary now, like Ed Sheeran. He famously talked about playing over 1,000 gigs.
1,000.
And-
And pubs and tiny venues, right? Before his major breakthrough.
Exactly. And that's just one genre. Think about, countless rap icons. They all started somewhere small.
Yeah, open mics.
Open mics, tiny clubs, local showcases, they absolutely paid their dues on stage. And that grind, it isn't just about exposure. It's about honing your craft in real time.
Okay.
You sharpen your performance skills. You learn how to read and work a crowd. You build that essential stage presence. And crucially, you generate that invaluable word-of-mouth buzz.
Right. That's huge. Someone sees you deliver a killer set in a small room. They tell their friends. They follow you online. They make sure they're at your next show. That's growth you just can't buy.
And the numbers suggest the market is really there for it, too. That data point from Eventbrite in 2024 is kind of eye-opening. 270 million tickets distributed for over 4.7 million events globally.
Yeah, it just shows the whole ecosystem is, vibrant. And within that, for independent artists in hip-hop, trap, and R&B, there's definitely a significant demand for fresh, exciting talent.
At all levels.
Yeah, at local venues, curated showcases, even some festivals are looking to feature rising acts. If you've got the talent and the stage presence, there are real opportunities to reach new audiences and, start earning some income.
Okay, like show fees or...
Show fees, potentially, or just selling your merch directly to fans right after your set. Tangible income.
So the message from the guide is really clear then. As essential as the digital grind is,
Which it is.
the grind of live gigs is worth it. It's about getting in front of people, building that human connection.
It's where the rubber meets the road, really. Time to find your stage.
Okay, so we're convinced why live shows are vital. But here's the big hurdle for so many artists, actually finding these opportunities. The guide acknowledges that knowing where to look is half the battle, but it also says 2025 offers more tools and avenues than ever. So where do you even start hunting for gigs?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming. You kind of have to be looking in multiple places at once. The material we reviewed highlighted several key areas. First off, don't overlook major online event platforms.
Right.
Places like Eventbrite, for example.
Yeah.
The guide describes it as a gold mine for finding local music events, including open mics and club nights, specifically looking for artists.
Okay.
And there's data backing it up. A trend report showed 33% of eventgoers use Eventbrite for discovery. So people are finding shows there. You just need to search smart.
How do you mean search smart?
Using really specific terms like hip-hop showcase plus your city or rap open mic plus your city. Be specific.
Gotcha. That makes sense. If people are buying tickets there, promoters are probably listing shows there. What about platforms more directly linked to, like, concert booking itself?
Right. Bandsintown and Songkick are absolutely essential tools. They're primarily fan-focused platforms, used by millions, over 90 million fans on Bandsintown, 15+ million on Songkick.
Wow.
To track their favorite artists and find concerts. But for artists, they're kind of dual purpose.
Okay.
You can use them to find shows by other artists in your city,
Yeah.
which is great for networking,
Right.
see who's playing where. But more importantly, you can list your own shows
Oh, okay.
so that local fans following you actually get notifications when you're playing nearby.
Yeah.
You definitely want your name popping up on those lists.
And the guide introduces a platform that seems maybe more tailored specifically to this scene, the BeatsToRapOn Event Search.
Yes, this was highlighted as a more niche,
Yeah.
genre-specific tool. So instead of wading through every genre imaginable, you can focus your search just on rap, trap, and R&B events.
Yeah.
Browse by city, by date,
Yeah.
and it lets you filter for specific event types too, like open mics, freestyle battles, or artist showcases. It's positioned almost as an insider directory for discovering places to perform, or even just scouting the scene, seeing who's active. The material suggests keeping an eye on it because new opportunities are apparently added constantly.
So, okay, dedicated music platforms. But what about just good old-fashioned searching online? Is that still effective?
Still incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
The guide recommends what it calls smart local search. This includes simple, targeted Google searches like, again, rap open mic in your city, or maybe your city hip-hop showcase 2025. You'd actually be surprised what you can dig up that way.
Right.
And social media is absolutely massive for this. You cannot ignore social.
How big of a role does social media really play in finding gigs, though?
Huge. A huge one. Facebook still has tons of local music groups and specific open mic groups where events get posted. Instagram is crucial. You need to be following local venue pages and especially local promoter pages.
And actual people booking the shows.
Exactly. They frequently announce events and put out calls like, hey, looking for artists for this date. You got to be there to see it. Twitter, or X now, and even Reddit communities like Raw Making Hip Hop are places where artists share local tips and opportunities. Promoters are actively living on these platforms, so you have to be proactively searching and engaging there too.
Are there also websites specifically built to, connect artists with booking opportunities, like directories or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
The guide lists several. Indie on the Move, Gig Finder, Sonic Bids, Gigmit. Indie on the Move gets highlighted as a resource that lists venues and promoters who are actively looking for artists to book right now.
Okay.
Some of these platforms, particularly Sonic Bids, are known for requiring membership fees or submission fees to apply for gigs, especially the bigger opportunities like festival slots.
So that's a potential cost versus time-saving trade-off then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The material suggests being mindful of potential paywalls, do your research. But it notes that these platforms can be worthwhile if you have a budget, particularly if you're looking for gigs outside your immediate area or trying to navigate those more structured festival application processes where they consolidate everything.
But it's not just about digital tools, is it? The human element, networking, seems to be really heavily emphasized in the material.
Oh, it really is. This is one of those crucial insights.
Yeah.
One of the absolute fastest ways to hear about performance opportunities is simply through other artists who are already in the scene.
Right. People who are already doing it.
Yeah. The BeatsToRapOn Creators Network is presented as a dedicated community hub specifically for this artist, promoters, fans in this space. Updating your profile there to clearly say, hey, I'm a performer, I'm looking for gigs, makes you discoverable. Promoters can actually search by location, genre, and who's actively looking.
So keeping that profile updated with your latest music, your bio, your social links, it's basically creating a digital handshake for promoters who are actively scouting on there.
Precisely. The guide describes it almost like LinkedIn for hip-hop gigs. The more complete and active your profile is, the higher the chance of being found by someone organizing an event, or you stumbling upon an open submission call posted right there within the network. It aims to bridge that gap directly.
And there's a really important pro tip from the material about where to focus your energy initially, right?
Yes, and it's fundamental. Start local.
Sure.
Seriously, don't dismiss your hometown scene, even if your dream is national touring eventually.
Why local first?
Building a strong local following makes it infinitely easier to get booked by venues and promoters in your own city. They want acts that bring people out. That local momentum can then snowball into regional and eventually national opportunities. And just on a practical level, always reach out to promoters well in advance. Lineups are often set weeks, sometimes months, ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute.
Okay, so you scouted, you found some potential places to play, but you quickly realize not all gigs are the same level, right? The guide breaks down the different types of stages you'll likely encounter.
Yeah, and understanding these different types is key to targeting opportunities that are actually right for where you are in your career right now. You don't want to jump in too deep too soon or stay too shallow for too long.
Makes sense. Let's start with the entry point. Open mic nights.
Right. The guide positions open mics as the essential gateway to live performance. These are typically, low-pressure events, usually held in lounges, bars, sometimes community centers, places where pretty much anyone can sign up for a short slot, like 1 or 2 songs.
And what's the real value for a new artist there?
Immense. They're a really low-stakes way to just practice performing, test out new material in front of a real live audience, and just start getting comfortable on a stage. Plus, you start getting your name out there locally. People see you.
How do you usually find and sign up for these open mics?
You can find them by searching online, like we mentioned, asking other local musicians you meet, and checking those event platforms, Eventbrite, Meetup, places like that. Most operate on a first-come, first-served sign-up list.
So you got to get there early.
Usually, yeah. The list opens at a specific time before the performances start, so showing up early is often necessary to guarantee yourself a slot. Some might offer pre-registration online or maybe via DM to the organizer, but showing up early is usually the safest bet.
What should an artist expect at their first open mic? Like, what's the vibe?
The audience size can vary hugely. You might play for literally 5 people or maybe 50. The focus should just be on connecting with whoever is there. You'll need your instrumental, obviously typically on your phone or a USB drive for the DJ, unless you're doing something purely a cappella.
And the set length is short?
Very short.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 songs max.
Yeah.
Or like a quick 3-5 minute freestyle. But the atmosphere is usually really supportive because pretty much everyone else there is either performing to or knows someone who is. It's actually an excellent place to network with fellow artists.
And the guide gives some great historical context here, right? Showing how this is where so many legends actually started.
Absolutely. It mentions Chance the Rapper honing his skills in the Chicago open mic scene. Legendary spots like the New York and Poets Cafe in New York, which has this rich, history-blending spoken word and hip-hop that's been a proving ground.
Right.
And in L.A., Project Blowed in Leimert Park gets highlighted as one of the most enduring open missifer workshops. It influenced generations, from Freestyle Fellowship all the way to Kendrick Lamar. And modern versions like the Bananas and Juice Cup events carry on that tradition. The guide really emphasizes that open mics are where you pay your dues and learn your craft.
So you really need to treat every open mic appearance like a stepping stone, not just a throwaway performance.
Exactly. Bring your best energy, bring your best material, because you genuinely never know who might be in that audience or how that one connection might pay off down the road.
Okay, so once you've logged some time at open mics, built a little confidence, maybe got some decent footage, the next level often involves showcases and small venue concerts. How are those different?
These are definitely a step up, both in formality and the stakes involved. Showcases are typically curated events, so not just anyone can sign up. They feature a lineup of emerging artists, usually handpicked by a promoter, each doing a slightly longer set than at an open mic.
And where do these usually happen?
Often at established music venues or clubs, maybe on nights that aren't their peak weekend nights. A Tuesday or Wednesday showcase.
How do you get onto a showcase lineup then if it's curated?
This usually requires being invited or selected by the promoter. Often there's a submission process involved. You might need to send your EPK. The material notes that the crowds are generally bigger than at open mics, and there's a higher likelihood of industry representatives or media being in attendance, maybe scouting for new talent.
Okay, so higher potential visibility.
Definitely. But the guide also warns artists here to be really cautious about pay-to-play showcases.
Right, we touched on that, where you have to pay to perform.
Yeah, or maybe buy a large number of tickets up front to sell. While some competitive formats with maybe a small entry fee might be legitimate, the advice is to be very wary of high costs and vague promises of exposure. A really smart tip from the guide is to actually attend the showcase as an audience member first.
Oh, okay. Scout it out.
Yeah. See the vibe, see who's actually there, check the quality, and then, if it feels legit, introduce yourself to the promoter after the show. Tell them you enjoyed it, ask about future opportunities. That personal connection after showing support can open doors way more effectively than a cold email sometimes.
The guide points to an iconic venue that runs a series like this, right?
Yes. SOBs in New York City is a classic example. Their Next Up series handpicks rising local talent in hip-hop, R&B, and other genres for their legendary stage. There's an online submission process, and if you get selected, it's a big deal. You join this community of alums and potentially get opportunities to open for major acts playing there later. It just illustrates how a reputable showcase can be a really significant stepping stone.
And other types of showcases are mentioned too, not just venue-specific ones.
Yeah, like Coast 2, Coast Up FE, which actually tours around different cities, or showcases put on by radio stations like the Hot 97's Who's Next. The guide points out that while these gigs might not pay much or anything initially, the exposure and the content, you get professional photos, maybe video of you performing on a more prominent stage. That stuff is incredibly valuable for building your reputation and your EPK.
And a practical tip for these shows: bring people with you if you can.
Absolutely crucial. Promoters often consider how many people an artist can bring to the venue when deciding who to book, especially for those unpaid or lower-paid opening slots. Having even just a few dedicated supporters in the crowd not only shows the organizer you have some draw, but their energy and cheering can also significantly boost your own confidence and stage presence. It makes a difference.
Okay, so we have open mics as the starting point, showcases for stepping up your game. The ultimate goal for many artists, though, is playing festivals and maybe even going on tour. How realistic is that for an independent artist in 2025 to aim for those really big stages?
It's definitely competitive, no doubt about it, but it's absolutely possible with, strategic planning and persistence. The guide covers aiming for those larger stages like Rolling Loud, Lollapalooza, or SXSW.
And hip-hop and trap festivals specifically seem to be a growing space,
That's
right?
They really are. Rolling Loud gets mentioned as the biggest, obviously, with editions all over the world now. And while their headliners are global superstars, they do include slots for buzzing up-and-comers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The guide gave a specific example from Los Angeles, actually. A local collective called Something Dope partnered with Rolling Loud for a pre-festival open mic contest. And the winner got a slot on the main festival lineup at Rolling Loud CA 2025.
Wow, that's huge. From an open mic contest.
Exactly. A massive opportunity stemming directly from a local initiative connecting with the big festival.
What about other major festivals the guide points to? Where else might indies have a shot?
Well, there's Wireless in the UK, Broccoli City in DC, A3C in Atlanta. Soundset, though, that one's been on hiatus. Maybe it comes back. SXSW in Austin, One Music Fest in Atlanta, plus various regional events popping up. Many mid-sized to larger festivals have an apply-to-play process specifically designed for independent artists.
Okay, how does that application process usually work?
They typically announce it on their website months and months in advance, like way earlier than you might think. You'll usually need a professional electronic press kit, EPK, obviously links to your music, maybe some live footage, and sometimes there's a small application fee.
And the timing is key.
Critically important. A major insight from the guide here is about the deadlines. You must mark your calendar and apply extremely early. The example given is SXSW 2025. Their applications closed in late 2024. That's like 5 months before the festival even happens. If you're dreaming of a festival slot, you need to be looking for application information 6, maybe even 9 months out.
That's wild. You really have to plan way, way ahead. Okay, what about getting on tours, maybe opening for bigger, established artists?
That's definitely tricky but achievable, particularly for dates hitting your hometown or maybe nearby cities. Promoters often look to add a local opener to the bill.
Why is that?
Well, it helps boost ticket sales by drawing that artist's local fans. So the guide suggests actively tracking concert announcements for artists in your genre playing your area. Identify the local promoter or the venue handling that specific show, and then send them a really concise, targeted pitch.
What should be in that pitch?
Highlight your local following. Be specific if you can, like, I consistently draw X people to my local shows. Explain why you'd be a good stylistic fit with the headliner. Show you've done your homework. Sometimes relationships are key here too. If you've maybe opened for that artist before in another city, or if you happen to know their DJ or someone connected to the tour, that can definitely help get you on the promoter's radar. There are also curated tours, like Bigger Rankin's showcases or Monumental was mentioned, that travel and might have slots for local acts.
Right.
The guide even mentions that when you ask artists how they got those opening slots, the answer is often surprisingly simple, like, I just asked, or I knew someone involved. It really reinforces the value of just putting yourself out there and building those connections.
But the guide also gives a necessary reality check about these bigger opportunities, doesn't it? Like financially.
Yes, it absolutely does. It's important. For newcomers, slots at festivals or opening tours are very often unpaid. Compensation might just be limited to a few tickets for your friends, or maybe a very small honorarium like $100.
And you cover your own costs.
Almost certainly. You'll likely be covering your own travel, accommodation, food, everything. You have to realistically weigh the costs against the potential value of the exposure. Playing a major festival looks amazing on your resume and social media, and it can be a springboard. But the guide cautions against going into significant debt for an unpaid slot. Maybe starting with smaller regional festivals where the costs might be lower is a more sustainable approach first.
And it all connects back to your online presence again, doesn't it, for these bigger opportunities?
Crucially, festival bookers, tour promoters, they absolutely check your social media following, your streaming numbers, your engagement levels. A strong online buzz can significantly tip the scales in your favor when you're applying for those highly competitive, big stage opportunities. They want to see that people care about your music online too.
Okay, to give this a more concrete feel, the guide provides these spotlights on the actual gig landscapes in 3 major hip-hop hubs: New York City, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. The material notes that while the specifics definitely vary, the underlying principles and the types of opportunities apply pretty much everywhere, right?
Exactly. Think of these as case studies. Let's start with New York City. The material describes it as like a mecca of open mics and showcases. It's that classic proving ground for artists.
And SOBs is highlighted as a particularly iconic venue there.
Yes. SOBs and its Next Up Showcase series is presented as a prime example of a high-level opportunity for rising indie talent in NYC. They hand-select artists to perform on their legendary stage. Getting chosen is a significant achievement. It can lead to joining their alum community, maybe opening for major acts later. They have an online submission process, but the material notes, yeah, the competition is incredibly stiff, as you'd expect in New York.
New York and Poets Cafe is also mentioned, which might surprise some people who only know it for poetry.
It's a legendary spot, absolutely. While known for poetry, it is this deep, rich history of open mics where spoken word and hip-hop powerfully intersect. The guide highlights it as an excellent place to develop your stage presence, specifically because you're in front of a respectful, attentive crowd that really appreciates lyricism and performance craft. Setup is simple, focusing purely on the artist and their words, their delivery.
And there are other local showcase series happening regularly across the city too, not just the big names.
Definitely. Recurring events like Faces in the Crowd, Major Stage, or End of the Week EODub, which focuses specifically on freestyle and lyrical skills. These are often promoted heavily on Instagram and local hip-hop blogs. Winning competitions at these events can build your reputation and sometimes lead to prizes or even paid gigs down the line.
What's the key booking insight for New York City, given how incredibly competitive it sounds?
Relationships. Relationships are absolutely paramount because the scene is just so saturated with talent. The guide stresses the importance of showing up consistently, support other artists, be a regular face at events.
Be part of the community.
Exactly. This helps you become known to promoters, venue staff, DJs, other artists. That personal touch and familiarity go a long, long way in getting booked over someone they just don't know. And then, once you do get a booking in NYC, you absolutely need to bring your A game. The stakes feel high, and an amazing performance can build your name very quickly in that environment.
Okay, let's move west. Los Angeles is presented quite differently in the guide.
Yeah, LA is described as more of a mix. You've got industry showcases, lots of competitions, but also open mics. It's a city full of potential opportunities, but also, unfortunately, home to quite a few predatory promoters. You got to be careful.
That's a serious warning. What should artists specifically watch out for in LA?
The guide specifically warns about the common pay-to-play model, which is apparently quite prevalent in Hollywood and some downtown showcase venues. This is where artists are given tickets to sell and might be on the hook to buy unsold ones, or worse, required to pay a significant fee up front just to get on the stage. Yeah. The strong advice here is be extremely cautious. Research the promoter's reputation thoroughly online. Ask around. Only consider these kinds of gigs if the showcase is genuinely known to draw real industry scouts or significant paying crowds. Performing just for the sake of it and losing money isn't a sustainable strategy.
But amidst all that potential shadiness, there's still a powerful, authentic underground scene in LA, right?
Absolutely. Project Blowed and the surrounding Limerick Park area are highlighted as LA's true underground gems. Project Blowed is famous for its decades-long history as an open mic workshop that influenced giants like Kendrick Lamar, Freestyle Fellowship.
Wow.
Modern events like Bananas and the hip-hop cypher open mic at Juice Cup carry on that tradition. It's less glitz, more raw talent and genuine community. The advice there is simple. Show up, sign up, and earn respect by performing authentically. That scene values real skill over industry hype.
And LA's position as this huge industry hub creates some unique, maybe higher-level opportunities too.
Yes, definitely. The guide points back to that example of the pre-Rolling Loud CA 2025 open mic contest, organized by the Something Dope Collective, offering a slot on the actual festival lineup. That's a direct path created by local initiative. Radio stations like Real 92.3 or Power 106 frequently run contests where local artists can win opening slots for major concerts. In the college circuit, think UCLA, USC, they also book urban artists for cultural events and festivals, usually through student committees. So that's another avenue.
What's the key booking tip for navigating the LA scene overall?
Presentation is really crucial because it's the entertainment capital, right? Having a solid EPK, high-quality photos, and good performance video is essential for standing out from the crowd. Competition is incredibly high, so finding your specific niche crowd and building a genuine fan base who will actually show up for you is key. The guide notes that one really strong, packed showcase where you perform brilliantly can genuinely lead to multiple follow-up bookings from people who saw you or just heard the buzz afterwards. Oh, and yeah, realistically factor in LA traffic when you're planning your travel time to gigs.
Good practical tip. Finally, let's look at Atlanta, often called the modern hip-hop mecca. How is the scene described there?
Atlanta's scene is described as this blend of grassroots open mics and industry showcases. The vibe is often described as maybe more laid back and community-driven compared to NYC or LA, but don't get it twisted, it still requires serious hustle and grind.
Apache XLR seems like a real institution there, based on the guide.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's presented as the spiritual successor to the legendary Apache Cafe. It's home to iconic weekly events like the Microphone Check Open Mic and Jam Session, typically on Wednesdays. It's a place where poets, soul singers, rappers all perform, often with a live band back in them.
Oh, wow, live band.
Yeah, which is a different vibe. This setup has apparently nurtured countless ATL artists over the years. The etiquette there is show up early to sign up, vibe with the band if you can, just be seen by the community. Many established ATL MCs got their start or were first noticed performing right there.
And beyond Apache, there are other places to perform too, clubs and lounges.
Absolutely. There are weekly club and lounge showcase nights in areas like Edgewood Avenue or down along Old National Highway. These are often hosted by prominent local figures. DJs like Kelvin or Bigger Rankin are mentioned. These nights feature unsigned artists, sometimes in competitive formats where the crowd votes or there are prizes. Networking at these events is presented as being incredibly important because ATL is just a networking heaven.
How so?
Industry folks, DJs, A&Rs, producers, they frequently attend these smaller nights looking for the next new talent. You could literally be performing at a small club night and a label scout is just hanging out in the room. It happens.
And Atlanta has its own major festival scene as well.
Yes. A3C, All Three Coasts, happens in the fall and is highlighted as Atlanta's key hip-hop festival and conference. It's kind of like a mini SXSW focusing specifically on the culture, with concerts, panels, networking. Historically, A3C has offered performance slots to independent artists through applications and competitions. Performing at A3C puts you in front of an audience and industry folks from all over the country.
Plus the trap scene.
Yeah, plus there are numerous trap-focused events happening year-round. Showcases tied to major producers like Zaytoven or Coach K radio station battles, hosted by stations like Streets 94.5 or Hot 107.9. And there's the free Atlanta Hip Hop Day Festival, which is this massive annual outdoor event that provides stages for indie acts' great experience playing a big outdoor stage.
What's the key etiquette or booking insight for Atlanta, according to the guide?
The scene is supportive, but it's also very real. You have to come correct, as they say. Atlanta crowds are discerning. They won't fake enthusiasm if they're not feeling it. Your beats need to knock. Your lyrics need to connect. Authenticity is absolutely key. And truly, the phrase, "it's who you know," is almost law down there.
So networking is everything.
It's a networking heaven, but the emphasis is on building genuine relationships. Collaborate with other artists. Show up to their events, support the scene actively. Your next gig is very, very likely to come from someone you met at a show or a mixer or just chilling after an open mic. Build real connections. And, the guide really emphasizes throughout these city spotlights and just generally that every single major artist performing on huge stages today started small. Whether it was some gritty dive bar or the buzzing local showcase, every performance was a brick in building their career. The consistent message is, focus on being so undeniably good live that people start talking about you. Build that reputation that eventually makes promoters start seeking you out.
Right. Okay, so you've done the research, you've identified the types of gigs that fit where you are, you found some specific opportunities. Now, the really big question, how do you actually get the booking? The guide points to two essential components here: who you know and how well you present yourself when you reach out.
Yeah, and that who you know part, networking. It's absolutely 100% true in the live music world. Promoters and bookers, they rely heavily on their existing relationships. Yeah. There's actually a quote in the material from an experienced artist who put it really plainly. 9 times out of 10, live event promoters are booking their friends.
Wow.
That's just the reality. So your goal needs to be to become part of that circle. You need to essentially become friends with the scene.
How do you actually do that, though? It sounds a bit like a clique you have to break into.
It's maybe less about breaking in and more about just embedding yourself organically. The guide gives practical steps. Show up regularly. Be at other artists' shows. Go to open mics even when you're not performing. Check out battles, industry nights. Just be a familiar, friendly face.
Be visible.
Be visible, yeah. And support the community. Naturally, just by being present, you'll start to meet promoters, venue staff, DJs, other artists. Those casual interactions build real contacts. And you'll start to hear about opportunities often before they're even announced publicly. And when you network, the key is to do it genuinely. Don't just walk up to a promoter, shove a demo CD or a business card in their face and immediately ask for a gig. That rarely works.
Right.
Strike up real conversations first. Compliment their work. Maybe you like the event they put on, or an artist they booked, or their venue's sound. Show genuine interest in what they're doing. When you're authentic and supportive, people are much more likely to actually want to help you out or think of you when a slot opens up later.
And social media plays a role in this networking too, not just finding the gigs.
Absolutely. Follow and actively interact with local promoters and venues on their social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, whatever they use. Many use these platforms to announce events or even put out quick calls for artists like, hey, looking for a hip-hop opener for next Tuesday. If you're following them and engaging respectfully, you can jump on those opportunities fast. Joining local musician groups on Facebook is also useful, as artists often share leads and opportunities there. Your online activity really complements your in-person presence.
And the Creators Network we mentioned earlier is designed specifically to facilitate this digitally, right?
Yes, exactly. It's presented as a dedicated platform for digital networking within this whole hip-hop ecosystem. By updating your profile to clearly indicate you're a performer and engaging in the forums or discussions there, you increase your visibility. Promoters apparently actively use the platform to search for artists by location, genre, availability. The more polished your profile is with your music, your bio, links, good photos, the better chance you have of catching a booker's eye when they're scouting online. It's essentially designed to break down that barrier between indie artists and event organizers.
So it's really not just about asking for favors, it's about being an active part of the ecosystem.
Exactly. Networking is a two-way street. Offer value where you can. Maybe help a promoter promote their event online, share their flyer. Offer to volunteer a little time, maybe help set up or tear down at a show. Earning those kinds of points in the community can make you the person they think of first when they need a last-minute fill-in or are planning a new showcase series.
Okay, so relationships definitely open doors. But eventually, you still have to actually make the ask, right? How do you approach a venue or a promoter professionally to get booked?
Right. This is where your presentation and your pitch really come into play. You need to be professional, concise, and compelling when you reach out. And the first step, before you even reach out, is having your materials ready. Primarily, your electronic press kit, or EPK.
What exactly should an EPK contain in 2025? What's essential?
Think of it as your professional artist resume, but multimedia. In 2025, it's typically either a dedicated web page or maybe a really well-organized PDF file. The guide outlines the essential components. A short, engaging bio, tell them quickly who you are, your style, any notable achievements. Samples of your best music-embedded players are ideal, make it easy. Videos, crucially, including at least one of you performing live. Even a good quality phone clip from an open mic helps prove you can handle a stage. High-quality promotional photos. Links to your key social media and streaming profiles. They will check your numbers and engagement. And clear contact information for booking either you or a manager if you have one. The material emphasizes, echoing advice from places like Ditto Music, that keeping all this essential info in one easily accessible place just makes a busy booker's job much, much easier. You can build an EPK using free services, your own website, or platforms like Sonic Bids or Reverb Nation often have EPK features.
So you've got your EPK looking sharp. How do you actually use it to reach out? What's the best way?
Email is generally the most professional and trackable method. Use DMs only really as a last resort, maybe if you absolutely can't find an email address and you know the promoter is very active on that specific platform. When you email, personalization is absolutely key. No mass copy-pasting blasts.
Right. They can smell those a mile away.
Totally. Keep it short and polite. Use a really clear subject line, something like booking inquiry your artist's name for venue event name, so they know immediately what it's about. Greet them by name if you possibly can. Mention your city. Express your specific interest in performing at their venue or their specific event series. And critically, show you actually know who they are. Give them a genuine compliment about their venue, their event series, their work. Flattery, if it's sincere, can help. Then, briefly introduce yourself, your genre. Maybe one quick, factual point of credibility, like reached X streams, got local radio play, won X open mic. But avoid sounding braggy or desperate. The most important part, include links. A link to your full EPK is great, or at the very least, direct links to your best music track and a live performance video clip. Make it incredibly easy for them to hear and see you perform immediately with one click.
And again, keep it brief, right? They don't have time to read an essay.
Absolutely. Promoters are swamped. A few concise sentences, maybe one short paragraph total, is ideal. And with a clear call to action. State your general availability, maybe mention you're interested in an opening slot or being considered for an upcoming lineup, and politely ask if they have any relevant shows coming up you could be a fit for. Thank them for their time. The guide actually provides a good example email structure based on pitching an artist named Lil Flo, showing exactly how to be concise and effective.
What happens if you send that perfect email and crickets? You don't hear back.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Patience is essential. Promoters are incredibly busy. If you don't get a response within, say, a week or two, one single polite follow-up email is generally acceptable. Just a quick check-in. After that, the guide strongly advises against scamming them or getting angry or aggressive in your messages. That's a guaranteed way to burn bridges and get yourself blacklisted in the local scene. If they don't respond after a polite follow-up, just move on and focus your energy on other opportunities. Don't take it personally. Also, keep an eye out. Some venues or specific promoters have formal processes. Maybe there's a booking inquiry form right on their website, or a dedicated submission email address they want everyone to use. Always follow those specific instructions precisely if they exist. And of course, if you have a booking agent or a manager, they would typically handle all of this outreach. But as an independent artist starting out, you'll almost certainly be doing it yourself.
And the guide mentions there are also some newer technological tools emerging to help with this connection process, beyond just email and DMs.
Yes, it points to platforms like OpenR as an example of these new matchmaking tools. OpenR allows event organizers to post specific performance slots they need filled, and artists can then submit their profiles directly to those specific slots. It often uses data matching based on genre, location, availability. It might incorporate built-in EPK features and even analytics to show bookers things like your fan base engagement levels. The guide suggests keeping an eye out for these kinds of platforms and tools that leverage AI or smart algorithms to connect artists and events. Being an early adopter of those could potentially give you an edge.
Okay, before we move on to actually preparing for the show itself, the guide dives into the really practical side of things, the money. This can be a tricky, sometimes sensitive topic, especially when you're just starting out.
It absolutely is, and the material is very direct about the reality. Many of your early gigs are going to be unpaid. That's just normal in most scenes. And you should try to view them as investments in your career, building experience, getting footage, making connections, gaining exposure.
But that doesn't mean they're completely free for the artist, right? There are still costs involved.
Absolutely not. You definitely still need to budget. Factor in potential costs, like transportation, gas, bus fare, whatever getting to and from the venue. Maybe food while you're out, potentially new clothing or specific stage wear you want. And if you're traveling out of town for a gig, then the lodging costs come into play. You have to realistically weigh these costs against the perceived value of the opportunity. A high-profile showcase might be worth the expense, but constantly playing unpaid gigs that have significant out-of-pocket costs can quickly become unsustainable if you're not seeing a clear return on investment in terms of career growth or future paid opportunities.
So basically, don't expect payment early on.
Generally, no, not a substantial fee anyway. Small venues and local promoters often operate on really tight margins. The headliners usually get paid, but opening acts or artists on showcases frequently play just for exposure, maybe a very small stipend like $50 if you're lucky, or just a few drink tickets. This is pretty standard until you can consistently prove that you can draw a paying crowd yourself. The most important thing, always clarify the payment or compensation situation clearly beforehand so there are no awkward surprises or misunderstandings on the night. As your following grows and you gain more leverage, then you can start negotiating for guaranteed fees or maybe a percentage of the door take or ticket sales.
Let's talk about that pay-to-play situation again, specifically the model where promoters make artists sell tickets.
Right. This is probably the most controversial version. This is where the promoter gives you a stack of tickets, say 10 or 20, and requires you to sell them, often with a minimum number you're responsible for. It puts you in a really tough position, essentially making you a salesperson for their event.
Yeah, that feels weird.
It can be. Now, if you're very confident you can easily sell those tickets to your existing fan base, it can be a way to prove your draw to the promoter, and sometimes you might get a cut of the ticket price for each one you sell. But the big risk is, if you don't sell them all, you might be on the hook to buy the unsold tickets yourself from the promoter at face value. The guide's strongest advice here is pretty clear. Try to avoid any scenario where you have to pay significant money up front simply for the right to perform on a stage. Having to hustle tickets is one thing, but outright buying your way onto a bill is usually a red flag. Your talent and your proven ability to draw should be what gets you the spot. Maybe a modest fee like $20 or $30 for a legitimate contest entry or a really well-regarded showcase might be acceptable if it genuinely offers valuable exposure or networking, but be extremely cautious with anything more expensive or coming from an unknown promoter.
So paying a big fee up front is almost always a red flag?
Generally, yes. A suggested alternative from the guide if you're struggling to get booked onto other people's shows. Consider organizing your own show. Team up with a few other artists you know and collaborate with. You can split the costs involved, like venue rental, maybe hiring a sound tech, and you have much more control over the event, the promotion, and the finances. The ultimate goal, as you build your career, should always be to get paid for your performance, not have to pay to play.
But even at those early unpaid gigs, there are still ways to potentially make a little bit of money, right?
Definitely. Primarily through selling merchandise and maybe getting tips. Even simple low-cost items like $5 stickers or maybe $10, $15 t-shirts can add up if you sell a few at your show. Have them visible. At open mics, sometimes you can pass around a tip bucket, or you can subtly plug your Cash App or Venmo handle during your set. Every little bit helps cover your costs, and it also provides another immediate indicator of how well your performance was received by the audience.
Okay, so the bottom line on the money talk seems to be prioritize getting exposure and experience initially. Understand and budget for the real costs involved for you. Don't let yourself get exploited by clearly predatory schemes, and work strategically towards making gigs a source of actual revenue as your career progresses and your draw increases.
Precisely. Know your worth, absolutely, but also understand the reality of starting out in most scenes.
All right, this is huge. You've done all the work, you've networked like crazy, you've pitched perfectly, and boom, you've landed the gig. Congratulations. Now, the absolutely crucial part. Actually preparing to deliver an unforgettable performance. The guide makes a really powerful point here. A great live show is something like 90% preparation.
Yeah, winging it rarely leads to a great show, especially early on. This checklist of preparation steps from the guide is vital. First and foremost, maybe obvious but essential. Rehearse.
Yeah.
Relentlessly. Practice your set until it's completely embedded in your muscle memory. You shouldn't be thinking about the lyrics on stage.
And not just sitting down, right?
No. Critically, practice live. Stand up, hold something that feels like a mic, a water bottle, whatever. Move around the room like you would on stage. Practice projecting your voice using your diaphragm for proper breath control. Run your entire set, including the transitions between songs, without stopping, just like you would need to on stage.
And the guide recommends recording yourself during practice.
Oh, it's a game changer. Seriously. Use your phone, set it up, and record your rehearsals. Then, watch yourself back critically. How's your movement? Do you look stiff? Are you mumbling? Your enunciation. Do you look engaged with the imaginary audience or just staring at the floor? Catch and fix those awkward performance habits in practice, not when you're in front of a real crowd.
Backing tracks are obviously key for most hip-hop, trap, and R&B sets. What's the advice there?
Absolutely crucial. You need to decide how you're performing your songs. Are you rapping, singing over just the instrumental beat? Or do you want a performance track? That usually means the beat plus maybe your backing vocals on the hooks, maybe some ad-libs are kept in, but your main lead verses are either muted entirely or turned down very low.
And the big no-no.
The guide gives a really strong piece of advice here. Do not rap or sing over a track that has your full lead vocals still on it. It just sounds like karaoke. It undermines your live performance. Prepare high-quality audio files. MP3 is usually fine. WAV is better if possible. And have them clearly labeled on a reliable USB drive. That should be your primary method for the DJ. Maybe have your phone ready as a backup.
But if you use your phone,
create a dedicated playlist, put it in airplane mode, make absolutely sure all notifications are turned off. Nothing worse than a text alert mid-song. Also, knowing your song's BPMs, beats per minute, and maybe the keys can be helpful for the DJ, especially for transitions. The guide even mentions their free online BPM and key finder tool you can use for this.
okay, tracks sorted. What about stage presence, that X factor that makes a performance really memorable?
It's everything. It elevates a good song into a great show. You need to consciously work on how you move and how you engage the audience. Even simple things make a difference. Moving to different parts of the stage instead of staying frozen in one spot, making eye contact with different people in the crowd, imagining you're pointing to individuals, maybe bouncing with the beat physically, plan out specific moments for crowd interaction, when you're going to ask them to put their hands up, when can you get them to chant a hook back to you. Like when I say hip, y'all say hop.
Cheesy but effective sometimes.
Totally. The guide acknowledges that nerves are natural. Even for major artists, it mentions thinking about early Chris Brown performances where he looked nervous. But the key is to learn how to channel that nervous adrenaline into dynamic stage energy. A great tip mentioned, attributed to Smart Rapper, is to get the crowd actively involved by asking them to do things. Clap along here, wave your hands there. It makes them feel like part of the show, and it instantly boosts the overall energy. Remember, the audience feeds off your fun and energy.
And what about physical preparation right before the show, like vocal care?
Yeah. Treat your body like an athlete's on show day. Do some basic vocal warm-ups, things like lip trills, humming scales, maybe running through some light verse passages quietly. Stretch your neck, shoulders, and jaw to release tension. Hydrate consistently all day with water. And, crucially, try to drink room temperature water during your set if you need it. The guide strongly advises avoiding dairy products or ice-cold drinks right before or during your performance, as they can apparently constrict your vocal cords or create phlegm.
Good to know. Okay, what should an artist actually bring with them to the venue? What's in the essential show kit?
The guide lists the must-haves. Your music on a USB drive, and maybe you have a backup on your phone or another USB, a Sharpie marker, and a couple of printed copies of your set list. You can tape one to the stage monitor or the floor for reference, and keep one in your pocket. A water bottle, room temp, some merchandise if you have it ready to sell, even just a small handful of items. Maybe some simple business cards or small flyers with your social media handles, or a Spotify QR code to hand out.
What about bringing your own microphone?
Optionally, yeah. If you have a personal mic that you love and are comfortable with, you can bring it. But always ask the sound engineer beforehand if it's okay to use it. Be prepared for them to say no. Most venues expect you to use their standard house mics for consistency and ease of setup. Also, hygiene is a factor some artists consider.
And bringing a friend.
I highly recommend it if possible. Bring a trusted friend, or maybe one designated crew member. Someone to hype you up beforehand, maybe help watch your gear while you're performing, film your set on their phone, crucial content, and give you some honest feedback afterward. Just make sure whoever you bring understands they need to be respectful of the venue, the staff, and the other performers. Oh, and sound check. If there's a sound check scheduled for your show, make it an absolute priority to be there and be on time. This is your critical chance to work directly with the sound engineer.
What do you do at soundcheck?
You get your microphone levels right, you make sure you can hear yourself properly in the stage monitors, you get a general feel for the stage acoustics and space. A good tip is to run through a bit of your loudest, most energetic song during soundcheck, so the engineer can set the main levels properly without clipping later. If there's no scheduled soundcheck, which happens often at smaller gigs, then definitely arrive as early as possible. Introduce yourself politely to the sound engineer and the DJ. Clearly and concisely communicate your needs, how you want your backing track played. Like fade out at the end, hard cut.
Nice.
Any specific points where you need the music to stop suddenly, maybe if you want a little reverb on your vocals. Try to avoid any technical surprises during your actual set.
What about what you wear? And any other gear?
Plan your outfit beforehand. Make sure it fits your artist brand or the vibe of the show, but also, critically, that it's comfortable enough and allows you to move freely on stage. Layers are often a good idea, as venues can get surprisingly hot under stage lights. If you plan on using any props, like a backdrop banner, or bringing guests like dancers on stage with you, you absolutely need to coordinate and get approval for this with the venue or the promoter well in advance to avoid any issues or confusion on the night.
And just before you walk on stage,
Yeah.
the mental game. How do you handle nerves?
Crucial. Before you go on, take a few moments to just center yourself. Whatever works for you, maybe say a quick prayer, do some power poses backstage, listen to a specific pump-up song that gets you in the zone. Remind yourself why you're doing this, why you love it. A positive, confident mindset really does shine through to the audience. If you're feeling super nervous, a common trick is to try focusing on just one friendly face you see in the crowd, or even just a spot on the back wall, instead of trying to scan the entire audience at once. The guide says the first 30 seconds on stage are often the hardest. Just push through that initial hurdle, and you'll usually find you ease into the performance.
And during the performance itself, what if the crowd is small or something goes wrong?
Rule number 1. Give 110%, no matter how many people are in the audience. Whether it's 5 people or 500, they showed up, and they deserve a real show. Plus, you never ever know who might be watching. That one person could be a future collaborator, a blogger, a promoter. If it is a small crowd, try to use that intimacy to your advantage. You can interact more directly, maybe experiment with some new material or crowd work. Really focus on connecting with those individuals who are there. Always play with passion.
And if you mess up, forget a lyric.
Keep going. Seriously, most audience members won't even notice unless you draw attention to it by stopping or looking flustered. Just jump back in on the next line. If equipment fails, a mic cuts out, a track skips, and sometimes it will. It's live music.
Yeah.
Try to roll with it. Improvise, make a quick joke about it if you can. Turn it into a memorable moment. The show must go on, and how you handle those unexpected issues can actually show your professionalism and sometimes creates cool stories later.
Okay, the show's over, you killed it. What do you do immediately after?
Don't just pack up your stuff and dash out the door immediately. Stick around for a bit. Go talk to the people who came specifically to see you, or even just people who seem to enjoy your set. Thank them for coming out. Chat with the other performers who are on the bill exchange contact info, compliment their sets, build those peer relationships, and crucially, make sure you find the promoter or the booker before you leave. Thank them sincerely for the opportunity. Hey, thanks so much for having me out. I had a great time. Networking continues after the performance. Those positive post-show interactions are often how you get invited back or learn about other upcoming gigs. The guide actually mentions they have a free downloadable live performance checklist that consolidates all these prep steps. Plus, it includes things like pitch templates and promo tactics. It's highlighted as a really useful tool, like a lifesaver, to make sure you don't overlook anything crucial in the lead-up to hitting the stage.
That sounds super helpful. Okay, so getting booked is step 1, preparing is step 2. But getting people to the actual venue to see you perform is step 3, and it's equally important, right? Especially for independent artists trying to build their draw. The guide really stresses that promotion is absolutely key.
Totally is. You can put on the best show in the world, but if no one's there to see it, you need to announce your show as soon as it's confirmed. Don't wait. Create a Facebook event page right away and invite your contacts. Design a compelling flyer, make it look good, and post it everywhere.
Everywhere means
Your Instagram feed, your Instagram stories, use the countdown sticker, Twitter, TikTok. Don't just post it once and forget it. You need multiple reminders as the date gets closer. Maybe vary the content. Share a clip of you rehearsing for the show. Post the graphic with all the venue info and lineup. Tag the venue and, crucially, tag the other artists on the bill so they can easily share it to their audiences too. Leverage relevant hashtags, things like hashtag hip hop show, hashtag live music, hashtag your city music, hashtag venue name. Even a short, simple TikTok clip just talking about your excitement for your first show or this upcoming gig can get decent engagement.
Are there specific tools or even AI that can help with this promotion grind?
Yes. The guide points to resources like Canva, which makes it pretty easy for non-designers to create those flyers and social media graphics. And it mentions exploring AI tools that are popping up now. For example, some can help generate dynamic video clips synced to your music for social media promotion. or even help you draft initial versions of press releases or outreach messages for local media contacts. If you have even a tiny budget, the guide suggests small geo-targeted ad campaigns on Facebook or Instagram, even just $20 or $50, can be surprisingly effective in reaching people in your specific city who are already interested in your genre of music. Don't forget your email list if you have one. Send out a dedicated newsletter blast about the show. And sometimes just personal invites to friends, family, and your core fans can make them feel special and really ensure they show up to support.
Should artists still bother looking at traditional local media, like weekly papers or blogs?
Yeah, it's still worth a shot, especially for slightly bigger shows. Send your show information, dates, times, venue, lineup, maybe a link to your music to the event listing sections of local free weekly papers, online community calendars, or local music blogs in your area. Email college radio stations, community radio stations, and they often promote local shows. For truly significant gigs, like maybe your first headlining show, or if you land a festival slot, you could consider writing a simple, concise press release. Target local bloggers or maybe the lifestyle or arts section of your city's news outlets. Sometimes they will pick up a human interest angle like, hey, local rapper from your neighborhood is opening for big touring artist. It's definitely a long shot compared to social media, but it's possible and costs nothing but time.
And what about physical, like on-the-ground promotion? Does putting up flyers still work?
The guide says, don't underestimate the power of it. Putting up actual paper flyers in relevant places can still be effective. Think local record stores, cool coffee shops, college campuses near the venue, community centers, or even handing them out at other similar music events you attend. And word of mouth is still incredibly powerful. Personally, inviting friends, coworkers, classmates, people you interact with in your daily life can be very effective in getting your initial crowd out.
And during the show itself, you mentioned you can also leverage that moment for promotion, too.
Absolutely. Make sure the host announces your social media handles clearly. Or, better yet, say it yourself clearly from the stage at some point. Make some noise if you're having a good time. You can follow me at your handle. Maybe point out where people can find your merch table if you have one set up. You want to turn that live show experience into a bridge for sustained engagement online afterwards.
Okay, so what about promotion after the show is over? Is that important, too?
Crucial for building momentum and, importantly, for creating social proof for future bookings. Share photos and video clips from the performance as soon as you can again. Even good quality phone footage is fine initially. Just get something up. Thank the attendees online for coming out. Tag the venue and the promoter in your posts. It's polite, shows gratitude, and helps build that public relationship which other bookers might see. Consider creating a short recap video or maybe a vlog about the experience, like my first time performing live at venue. This kind of content resonates really well with other aspiring artists and helps grow your online fan base by showing your journey. Video content from your performances is a major promotional tool now. Use it.
And those internal networking connections you made at the show.
Follow up on those two. Add the new industry contacts you met on LinkedIn or wherever appropriate. Definitely connect with the other artists you shared the bill with on Instagram or exchange numbers. Suggest inviting each other to future shows, maybe collaborating. And send a quick thank you message, maybe an email, to the promoter or booker again, just reiterating your appreciation. That little bit of professional politeness really goes a long way and makes you memorable for the right reasons. If the show went well, it's totally appropriate in that thank you message to politely ask them to keep you in mind for future opportunities. The ultimate goal with all this promotion, both before and after, is to steadily grow your draw. That's the number of people who come out to a show specifically because you are performing. Promoters pay close attention to that. Even if you start by only bringing 10 or 15 people consistently, building on that number show by show gives you bargaining power down the line for better set times, better venues, and eventually actual payment for your performances.
And the guide really ties all of this together, doesn't it? Showing how the gigging, your online presence, and your music releases all feed into each other, creating this kind of virtuous cycle.
Exactly. Success in one area definitely fuels the others. Performing live drives online engagement, which helps your streaming numbers, which makes promoters more interested, which leads to better gigs. It all connects. The material also points to related resources they offer on complementary topics, things like artist branding, TikTok SEO strategies, networking playbooks, suggesting it's all part of this bigger picture of building a sustainable music career.
And the source material offers this really striking perspective on the industry right now, doesn't it? It includes this quote that really jumped out at me. These labels, the industry, man, it's all a setup. You want the truth. The platform blowing up right now is BeatsToRapOn.com. That's where the new wave is winning.
Yeah, it's a pretty provocative statement. It definitely captures a lot of the frustration that many artists feel with the traditional gatekeepers and the established industry structures, while at the same time, it's highlighting where the perceived opportunities are shifting in this constantly evolving landscape. It really underscores this whole idea that artists are increasingly finding their own paths, building their own platforms, and connecting directly with opportunities and fans, maybe bypassing some of those older routes. Okay, so to bring this really comprehensive deep dive to a close,
Yeah.
we've covered so much ground. We talked about why performing live is basically non-negotiable for growth in hip-hop, trap, and R&B in 2025. We explored all the different places you can actually find gigs, from online platforms and targeted searches to crucial in-person networking. We broke down the different types of stages you might hit for those first open mics all the way up to potentially festivals and tours. We discussed exactly how to craft your pitch, putting together that professional EPK and reaching out effectively and politely. We addressed the practical, sometimes tough, financial realities of budgeting for gigs, navigating that tricky pay-to-play landscape, and aiming for paid work. And then we went deep into the crucial steps for preparing for an absolutely unforgettable show rehearsal, track, stage presence, the whole 9 yards, and then promoting it effectively to build buzz and actually grow your draw over time.
This guide, and hopefully our deep dive into it, really provides a clear path and a ton of actionable steps for any artist out there listening who's serious about building their career through live performance, like right now.
For sure. The core message that comes through again and again is undeniably clear. The road from just making music in your bedroom to actually headlining stages is built brick by brick. It takes hustle, it takes heart, and it takes a commitment to continuously improving every time you step on stage. But the good news is, in 2025's incredibly vibrant and active hip-hop scene, there truly is room for every hungry artist who's willing to put in that work on stage and make those real connections with fans in person.
So, building on that powerful idea that every big artist really did start small, and that the scene right now genuinely has room for you if you're willing to put in the work. Maybe here's a final provocative thought for you to ponder.
What concrete specific step will you take this week, not next month, not someday, but this week, to move yourself from just creating music behind closed doors to actually hitting a stage, any stage, and finding your first live in-person fans?
The guide gives you the map, the strategies, but the journey truly starts with that first step out the door and towards a microphone.